This has never happened to me before. I swear.
Oh, wow.
It's all right, Baines. We can
All
cuddle.
right.
Hello and welcome to the Quackcast. This is Quackcast number 622. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Tance, the Clicker, and Baines, the Joker.
Hello.
Hello.
And this week we're talking about meet cute. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about smuckbait, schmuckbait, schmuck, schmutz, and other Yiddish terms. So, the idea behind schmuckbait is that Baines writes a news post and everyone comments on it. It's a bit more to it than that. So the idea of schmuckbait is it's like a cliffhanger, but there's really no suspense to it if you think logically, because it's like a cliffhanger where there's really no danger of it being a cliffhanger. Isn't that right, Baines?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like a cliffhanger that seems to be a big thing, like a big event that happens, a danger or a change in the status of the series. And but then when you come back for the next chapter or next episode, it's pulled back right away. The major character who seems to have died didn't die, or I don't know. I can't think of an example off the top of my head. The guy jumped out of the car at the last minute before it went to the cliff, off the cliff when that.
Or in Lord of the Rings, that those wolf thingies pull Aragorn over the cliff, and supposedly we're supposed to be afraid that he's dead, and he's not dead.
He's instantly.
He's not even. Like, he hasn't even broken anything. It's fine.
Right. Well, that, and Tance explained it well, I think on Patreon, or was it before we even recorded? I'm not sure. I think you did it on the Patreon video. But it's the episode after and how it's handled that makes it schmuckbait or not schmuckbait.
Yeah.
If you have consequences and the character gets out of the situation or it works out in a way that the audience can buy, then it's not schmuckbait.
All right, and we're going to get deeper into that after we introduce Quackcast talking about the feature comic for this week. So Quite, please tell us about The Return of the Old Gods.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is The Return of the Old Gods by Rabbit Master, and it is rated E for everyone. There is a plane on a runway, ready to take off at 1500 hours. Emily Stedman, a university student identified as a genius protege by her professor, is introduced to Major Blue, an Air Force liaison interested in her cognitive abilities. A bit clumsy at times, Stedman is able to connect the dots and see what is in front of her while making the leap to what is not in front of her. Welcome to the briefing room, complete with a stack of non-disclosure agreements that must be signed and kept forever, unless disappearing completely sounds like a better option. The comic is updated in full-size colored pages while using cel shading techniques. Sign those NDAs, learn the truth, and read The Return of the Old Gods by Rabbit Master, rated E.
And that was Quackcast telling us about The Return of the Old Gods. Alright, now we've got to talk about the featured music Gumwallis has given us a theme to, Return of the Old Gods. So, yes, he's seen that as a feature and he thought, I'll do some music for that. This is tonal, dark, intimidating, heavy sounds enveloping and surrounding, warning of doom-filled portents and solemn premonitions, all created by fully electronic tones. Gumwallis himself describes it as, this one came out more to my liking, sort of a frip and Eno Light with some 70s sci-fi. So take it away, Gumwallis, with Return of the Old Gods. That was Gumwallis with his theme to Return of the Old Gods. Okay, so we're back, and we're talking about schmutzes. At least the schmutz? What is it, Baines? I've forgotten the term already. Schmuckbait. Schmuck. Not a schmutz. Schmuckbait. So, when you have schmuckbait, what about it? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Tell us.
Well, schmuckbait is considered a bad thing. It was coined by, as far as I know, one of the Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul writers, who was talking about the end of a season. A big thing happens where a major character is apparently dead. It's not shown on screen, but it looks like, oh, that character is going to die. That's pretty big. It's pretty shocking. And I guess in their private conversations, they talked about, well, he's not necessarily dead. We think he is. And if he isn't, that would be schmuckbait. Like to just suddenly say, oh, no, he just, he coughed and there's a fire, for example, but he got out in time or something like that. And you begin the episode with the fireman pulling him out or something. That would be schmuckbait. It's when you make a big move in a story, character death or danger or something big, and then you just you pull it back.
Right, you don't follow through. The character's not actually dead. Ha ha, fooled ya.
But in a way that's not, that's a cheat. Like, of course, like fiction, especially like action adventure or whatever, like would have these cliffhangers and these moments of danger, and you're worried about the character, and then they get out of it. That's kind of a part of fiction and drama, but this is like sort of a cheat.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like everything changed. He died. Oh, no, next episode, it was a dream or whatever.
Oh, really?
That would be maybe the worst version of this.
You know what the worst, now that you mentioned it, I just remembered like the king of the schmuck baits. And that is in the last Twilight movie. Okay. So I guess spoilers if you haven't seen that masterpiece. So like the final scene is a super violent battle between vampires, like vampire sides. And you get, also werewolves join the whole battle. You have dismemberments, decapitations, people being torn to pieces, falling down, crevasses and stuff like that. It's super, super violent. And you are just amazed that after 2 hours of boring, super boring stuff, you finally get this payoff of, everyone going at each other and stuff. And in the end, it was just a vision, a warning of
Wow.
what
That's
would happen if one of the factions decided to attack,
Whoa.
and
all the
nothing
schmuck
had
bait.
happened.
But the
And it
lead
was
up is all boredom. And then did they ever do a version of that final battle? I guess they probably
no,
really.
they decide
Wow.
they decide to not fight.
Yeah.
That's all the schmucks.
Yeah,
Very schmucky.
It works if you're delivering in other ways. It's all like everything, all these so-called like rules about fiction. It's all about context, like
yeah,
the context of like the vision of doom and the dark future, the horrible disaster, and we managed to not have that future. That's a staple of sci-fi fantasy drama. In the right, if you do it the right way, that kind of thing can be great. But if you
yeah.
don't,
I would say that you, as a creator, you need to respect the emotional and cognitive, but mostly emotional investment that your audience has in what you set up.
yeah,
So negating it all and making it all for nothing is going to make people frustrated and not want to engage in it anymore. So
yeah, and I believe anyway that that's what schmuck bait is. Like, you're not saying the audience is schmuck or like you'll trick the dumb people. It's like the schmuck and all you make people into schmucks by having like taking their investment and their interest and then pulling the rug out. So it's not a flaw of the audience. Just in case anyone was taking it that way, it's a writing misstep.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's
And the
like
line
what.
varies, depends on genre. I think.
And you know what? I mean, unless you know what you're, I mean, every rule can be bent or broken. There is
Yes.
no such thing as completely unbreakable rule. I guess if you are accomplished enough. But the thing is that um, you are supposed to believe in your own story, and sometimes it might seem that okay, I'm going to just scare them a little bit that the main character has died, or something like that, so that I can wake them up and be engaged because I feel that they are sort of falling asleep on the in their chairs. So I'm going to wake them up a little bit, and then we're going to carry on in a sense, like
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
because it has no other value. I mean, what is the value of scaring someone with the audience with a cliffhanger that leads to nothing?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Like we were saying before, it was probably a bit of an artifact of old style episodic TV that these episodes were expected to be able to be shown out of order because of syndication. So you couldn't have anything that permanently affected the characters at the end of an episode. So that was a good reason not for having if a character seemed to die, you really couldn't have them be dead. So you
Right.
do something that's a dramatic sort of thing, and then we're all fine at the end. That's
I mean, you wouldn't
a
really
common
see
thing.
this in episodic TV, though. Really,
mhm.
like even if there's an emotional kind of thing where people are left with some heavy thing to deal with. I said this off mic, I think. Um, the next episode they'll be fine. As far as we see, the character will be fine. That's not so much schmuck bait. Like in episodic TV, you're kind of left to assume things are going to go back to normal. So you wouldn't normally see the main character dead at the end
Well, you
of an
do it
episodic
at the end of a
episode.
season. They do it the season finales. That would
And
be pretty
yes,
common.
and there it depends. Like, is it schmuck bait or not? It depends on the follow-up chapter.
Well, I think it really is for most of them, because when they, especially the old ones, when they did a season finale, and then everything like goes wrong, and it's like, oh my god, what's going to happen at the end? And then the very next episode in the next season, it's like they don't really deal with that at all. It's just, yep.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, that's no good.
I hate that.
And that's so common when you watch these old shows from the 80s and 90s, that they would just do that all the time. They wouldn't take time to properly address that season finale. It's handled way better now, simply because of the way we consume media. We do it in binges, and we go straight on to the next season, so they know they have to address it or it will kill their show. But back then, there was no alternative, because you watched it weekly or whatever, or you waited until the next season started, which could be like 3 months or 4 months or maybe a year. So
right,
they had to be, they didn't have to be that good to you, because they knew you are a captive audience, so yeah, things have changed for the better in that one, in many ways.
They I mean, there were also some old episodic series that had a very loose cohesion in the development of the episodes of the season. Like, for example, or some kind of continuation that you would need to more or less adhere to. Like, you couldn't air season 1 episode 5 and then season 2 episode 3 and then back to season 1, and you wouldn't be able to do that. I'm thinking, take the original MacGyver. So the first couple of seasons, I think, if I remember right, I haven't seen it for years now, were very episodic. You could just shuffle them as you wanted. But from season 3 and onwards, you had a very loose sort of a character development of the main character. So he had certain things to work through, some emotional issues with his father and stuff like that. And they did advance that while also having an episode of, something that was happening in parallel. So you did expect what happened, for example, in episode 3, emotionally speaking, to carry on to episode 4 and 5 and 6 and so on, which I really appreciated as a viewer back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's which was quite rare in a lot of those older things. I know, speaking in comics, I did the whole schmuck bait thing, I think, in Pinky TA, in that, I show, especially in the end of chapter 7, Pinky's sort of like presumed like wounded or injured or something like this. And then the story just starts from a different time period, and that thing is not even addressed, because it's going like for a time earlier before that all happened. So it's schmuck bait in a way. It's not showing a direct linear continuation from here to the next thing, but it's doing a time jump to an earlier part of Pinky's story, where what occurred there hadn't occurred yet. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, schmuck bait is like a bad thing. I don't know if that kind of structure is a bad thing necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think that necessarily counts, unless when you do get to that point, you forget about it.
Right.
Yeah, so you're meaning when we do go back to the future.
Mhm.
Back to the main storyline. Yeah, we don't address it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would make it schmuck bait, but only then.
I mean, to let people like be in suspense and like waiting to find out what's going to happen while they enjoy these earlier scenes, like that's a good thing, you know.
Mhm.
Oh,
You want to
okay.
give readers that experience and let them anticipate. You know.
Oh, well, that makes me feel a little better then.
If I've used schmuck bait, it must have shown up sometime in my comics. I'm not sure where.
I'm sure. I think I can remember it happening.
Probably.
I don't remember that happening with either of your comics.
Oh no, I'd be glad
No.
if not.
But yeah, I won't take it to the bank, but at least it's not egregious enough that I would remember it. So,
Oh, okay, good.
yeah.
There was one issue I did where Penelope's in a this underground fighting thing she's forced into. It was my sort of big drama episode, heist episode, if you will, I guess, in a way. And the final fight, I spend a few pages on it, and Penelope's getting pummeled, and she finally blacks out. And when she wakes up, the fight is like everything's over, and like sort of things are somewhat resolved.
Okay.
Mm.
It could be considered schmuck bait. I think it was that story in my comic is more about the characters. It's more of a comedy usually. Most of the readers were great with it. I kind of wondered, like, should there have been more? Should there have been more of a final struggle? Not necessarily seeing the very end of the fight, what happened when she blacked out, but like having more of a fight, more of a struggle in that final part of the story. So that's the closest thing I can think of offhand.
Hmm.
Well, it's not
I
really
still
shocking.
don't think it qualifies, though. I mean, in order for it to have a schmuck bait, I would say that you would need to have a gap that the audience feels they shouldn't feel. So if you have a fight that more or less you have shown how it turned out, um, then you jump a little forward without hand waving it away, then I don't
Right.
think that qualifies.
Right. It might not be totally legit. There might be a writing issue there, or there might not. But yeah, it's probably not schmuck bait anyway. If
Mm.
there's something wrong, it's something else. But anyway, it worked out. She lived.
Well, I was thinking in comics like, say, a Batman comic. It's
Mm.
it's pretty common in Batman. I think they're
Yeah.
always like it's machine gun schmuck bait all the time. It's like schmuck, schmuck,
Yeah.
schmuck, 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 schmuck.
Or
constantly.
also the in the 1960s series had like tons of it. Oh my god! And I think that's where I learned to
Yeah.
hate it because I
Right.
used to watch it on TV when I was a kid, and I always wanted to see things get real. You know, oh, okay, now we're gonna have next time we're gonna have a real episode where things that are not like totally superficially stupid are
Right.
going to happen.
Tune in, same Bat channel, same
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
Bat
played it up
time.
too. Yeah. This.
And they had the audacity to ask, will they survive? Will they blah blah? Same time, same back channel, and then they don't answer their own freaking question, and I hated that. And that's
Yeah.
why I learned to not do that. And I
Robin
never.
and Batman
Yeah.
are struggling. They're both tied up, saying, "Holy cliffhangers, Batman! What do we do now? I don't know, Robin. It looks like this is the end for us." And then the next
Yay!
episode, oh, thank goodness I had that anti-shark spray in my utility
Okay.
belt.
And I was
That,
gonna say
I
that's the
remember
one.
that episode.
Me
I
too. That's
remember,
the
like,
one I think of. Yeah.
I remember watching that episode and telling myself, like, I remember the thought process in my, I think I was like 10, 11 years old. And myself was asking me, what are you watching right now? What the hell are you watching right now?
It was a weird show, wasn't it? If you watch it as an adult and you see all these the same fat henchman in a different stripy jumpers, different masks on.
As an adult, I love it. It's
Yeah, you can kind of see that it was slyly humorous, and they knew it was funny.
It was so camp.
It's not taking itself seriously. I love it as an adult. As a kid, I wanted to take it seriously. I was so frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam West with the shark repellent might be a good cover image for this episode.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down.
No,
Adam
West and oh my God, what's his other?
Robin?
Dick.
Burt Ward.
Yes, Ward. If you remember, there was this one episode where they were in giant ice cream cones, right in the middle, up to the neck in ice, and that was the cliffhanger, and yeah.
Wow. Hilarious.
Or
go.
The other one where Robin is in this giant clam, and just his foot is out, and that's the other cliffhanger. Like, where will he be eaten by this giant clam?
God, it was a genius show, purely genius.
So that was maybe a style. I haven't seen a lot of those old movie serials. They would play these chapters, and they had comics like this as well, comic strips, where you'd have a little few-minute long serial, some adventure story, and the car is going off a cliff at the end. And then I guess it would play in front of another movie. You'd have to see it next time at the next movie you go to or something. Batman was kind of a version of that, I think.
Yeah, I suppose.
Would you say?
It's like an evolution
now,
of that.
If you want to see Schmuckbait dramatized, kind of, the book and the movie Misery talks about those old serials and how Annie Wilkes, who's trapped this writer and is forcing him to write a new book, she had a keen eye, even though she was a little dopey, a little dumb, she had a keen eye for Schmuckbait. And if she talks about the end of a serial chapter where a car goes off a cliff, and then in the next episode it shows the guy jump out of the car before it goes over the cliff, and she's enraged talking about this old serial from when she was a kid, and he didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car. It's her amazing, great. I think she does it in the movie. Yeah, she does this speech in the movie, and it's definitely in the book. And she is forcing this writer to bring a character back to life, his main character, who he killed in the last book. And he writes a version of it. And she says, and he's writing, trapped in her house when he's injured. And she takes it and throws it away, like takes his pages, throws it away. She's like, no, you can't do this. It's she was buried in the ground at the end of the last book. You have to start there. You have to do this for real. So there you go, an actual Schmuckbait.
Yeah.
Don't Schmuckbait to save your own life.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very true. Unless you're doing Batman from the 1960s.
Yeah. Then it's a Schmuckfest. Just go rampant.
Yeah, so that is a hyper stylized thing. It really was super stylized and cartoony. And cartoony tropes work for that kind of thing, really. It sort of enhances it.
You can subvert it in the sense that because that was a thing that would happen, and the audience is, fiction savvy in the sense that, that can't happen because the story will end, or because I have like 30 minutes left on the clock for the movie or whatever. You can subvert it by actually not doing the smack bait, and that is a double whammy. for the audience, because the audience is at first in disbelief, like, nah, it's not happening. And then as the story goes on and it shows that it is happening, the audience is going like, oh my God, it is happening. How is this going to go on now? Like, and you get like this spike of engagement.
That's
Exactly, because you bait them with a smack bait and it's not smack bait. So they go from being comfy and saying, it's not gonna happen.
true.
You know,
They're not going to kill off
and
that character or whatever.
yeah, and then they are like, wait, don't do that. You know,
Yes,
that's
that can be a
like,
great experience as a reader or audience. Or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, playing with
Oh,
expectations.
maybe they did. Are they really? Is he really dead? Kind of thing. Yeah, that's really great.
I know I have done it, and I actually had the pleasure, and thank all my readers that leave comments, to actually watch the process happening in the audience, because when the certain character that everyone hates me for dies, nobody believes that he's dead,
Yeah,
and to the point that even though I said in the author notes that, guys, like, there's no way he's alive.
yeah.
I showed all this blood. Yeah, that's too much blood out. um, I actually had to show the corpse.
Wow.
Otherwise, nobody would, like, they would still be holding out that he appears out of somewhere. So,
Well, he
Right.
did actually come back in a dream.
yeah. And I can't say that he will be coming back in those dreams, because he represents specific things for the character that dreams of him. But yeah, that's the only way he's coming back, in a dream. So yeah,
Or a flashback.
or a flashback. Yeah,
That would be great to see, and even you get to see him again in that dream sequence or in that moment. That's very satisfying, actually.
yeah,
See the character again, even though, like, is it real? Is it her version of him, her view of him, or whatever? It's still like, oh, you get to see him. It's nice.
yeah. I
Yeah.
know. I miss him as well.
So, what other comics have we seen Schmuckbait in?
Comics.
I'm sure tons of superhero like action adventures.
Yeah.
Definitely Batman. It's
Yes.
classic.
Yeah.
They do that even with the Joker, all the time.
And in 1980s anime or manga as well, I want to say, I don't remember necessarily the titles. Oh, do you remember this anime that the Star Sheriff, Silver Riders and the Star Sheriff, or something like that? I think
Yeah.
was the title. That had some space cowboys, all color coded, as they were at the time. And I remember that there was this fight between the Star Sheriff and the Red Cowboy. I don't remember any of their names. And the Red Cowboy went off to do his own thing, and then supposedly he got killed by a bomb, or like an explosion thing. And next time he is not even scratched, and he is just waiting to be rescued, and nothing has happened to him. So yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
It's rough.
let's see. When Baines was talking about those 3-panel little comic things, not 3-panel comic, but little comic strips. Modesty Blaze was one of those ones. It was a little tiny comic strip that used to be in the newspaper here, and that was used to do that kind of schmuckbait, I think, because you didn't have much space to tell a really dramatic story. Like, it's only 3 or 4 panels each time, and that's how they deliver you this dramatic, action adventure story.
Yeah.
So you're limited by the format.
They're wanting to sort of get you into the situation. If it's your first comic, they establish the situation that's going on at that moment, and then leave you with something that's going to make you want to come back tomorrow and pick up the paper the next day. Yeah. Pretty tough to keep going. I'm rewatching 24. I know Tans loves that show.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the TV version of that. Kind of.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, this roller coaster, always a cliffhanger. Multiple story threads going on, so it's a little different, of course, in a comic strip.
Yeah. You know what? It didn't really do that in the first season. Like the first season of 24, I actually really appreciate. It was something new, done really well.
Right.
But afterwards, they flog that horse to death.
Oh yeah.
And then they flog the dirt it died on. So yeah.
And then they snap like a smelling salt thing and bring it back to consciousness again, and then they flog it again.
Yes. Pretty much. And that reminds me again, since we're talking about Kiefer Sutherland series, they had this designated. Have you ever watched the Designated Survivor?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so that is a direct adaptation from the K-drama original, which is also called Designated Survivor. The difference is that the K-drama has like 16 episodes and it's done. Whereas the other one, the American one, has 3 or 4 seasons.
Okay, yeah.
So you see where I'm getting at.
Yes. They need to stretch it like all these crazy, I don't know what the genre of show is, but
yeah, it's a political thriller / action thing.
Okay, right.
The premise, and I really like it. If you are going to watch it, watch the Korean version first because that's the good one, and then get popcorn and friends and watch the American one.
Okay.
Because it's beautiful, but in a different way. And the premise is that you have like the government is going for this address where everyone is going to be there, and so they always have a designated survivor in case something happens and they all perish in the same room. So one person from the government is always in the silo of safety, and something does happen, the entire government goes, like everybody dies, and this one dude that is the least important member of the cabinet is suddenly the prime minister for 60 days.
Wow.
In the Korean version. In the American version, he is the president for the full 4-year term or something like that, which is not, like the point is not that. But anyway, so he has to understand what happened, stay alive, and also handle certain things that are going on at the same time. It's really, really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
In the Korean version. In the American version, it starts real well because it follows the sequence of events from the Korean one, but then
it diverts.
They jump the shark afterwards. Like you get all sorts of weird terrorists that come into play, and then you get Kiefer Sutherland becoming this iron fist president that is very questionable in my opinion, and he's like glorified, like, oh my god, dear leader, and I love that. It's so it's so American. I'm sorry. Like so Hollywood, what I want to say.
Yeah.
But he gets like almost dead or you get cheated out of a good time with a lot of smack bait, which the Korean one does not do.
Right.
So,
when you're trying to stretch out a story, that's one of the things that happens is a schmuck bait can show up.
Yeah.
I'm rewatching a few old series from the 80s. Let's see. Hunter. This is a great fun one. And that's a police comedy, action, drama, police show.
Is that the one from the 80s? Rick
Yeah.
Hunter? Wow.
Yeah, Rick Hunter. That's it. Played by Fred Dyer or something. And what's another one? Stingray. That's another one from the 80s. It's about a guy who drives around in a Stingray Corvette. And everyone calls him Ray.
Oh,
And he solves their problems, you know. It's one of these guys he's one of these Robin Hood kind of things, you know. I'm gonna fix your issue for you. Anyway, in those kind of shows, that kind of schmuckbait is constant because they're episodic.
Mm.
And, you know, nothing is going to count in the next episode.
Yeah.
So the structure of the episode is filled with those sort of moments that someone's, you know, oh my god, this character died. Oh, but they didn't die. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Unless you have a two-parter, if it is, you know that they're going to go through with it. If it is part at the end of episode so and so part 1.
Yeah.
If it has a part 2, then you know you're in for a good time and you are not worried.
Yeah. It's actually the Stingray show, they do it less as schmuckbait. Because, you know, sometimes maybe the main character will have a little bit of a cliffhanger situation, but you pretty well know that he'll get out of it. But the minor characters, you think, well, the secondary characters, I would say, you think, well, they're going to survive. They're going to be okay. But sometimes, no, they don't come back from that. So,
Especially when the actor wants to be written out of the series.
Well, I mean, they're not ongoing. Like, it's like a every time in every episode, the only constant is Stingray, right? So you don't know who's going to survive the episode.
Yeah.
So a secondary character who you think, oh wow, that character is just as important. No, that's going to be like, they're going to be another, like, you know, co-star in this episode. No, they get killed. So
yeah,
that's a good way of doing it, because they can play with it. Then you don't know whether it's going to happen or not. So it could be schmuckbait or it could be fine. So that's well done.
And that is a nice suspense in the sense that, okay, I don't know if I should buy it, but I want to see. So that is also a nice thing.
Exactly, and that's how it works.
Yeah. But I don't know. Personally, I will like, never is a big word, I guess, but most of the times I will never have smack bait anyway, because I hate it when it happens.
Yeah.
It really bothers me to the point that I can just sit there afterwards and think about it, and it bothers the hell out of me.
If you have, I just thought of a non-life and death example, like you have a will they or won't they kind of romance comedy series maybe, and it's like they get together at the end of an episode, and then it's like no, they break up right away.
I hate that too.
That
happens,
thing, right? It's the same
very
kind of
commonly.
Yeah,
that happens all the time.
It's the same thing, the same principle.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's true.
I mean, anything that would change the original constellation and the original status quo.
Yeah, I guess that's the fear of the writers, right?
Yeah.
That balance.
Yeah, the love plot. Oh my god. Yeah, it's like, say, what we're doing in Bottomless Waitress with Craig and Polly, except we're not doing it as a
we know it's not happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, we addressed that. But if we didn't address that and it was life as normal, then the audience would be going, "Hey, what the fuck?" So yeah, that would have a thing, wouldn't it?
Yes, maybe. If it was set up like a will they or won't they romance, which it's not.
Yeah.
And say with my special Halloween thing from last year, you know, where I do the alternative page. So the original sort of ending was Jane walking in on her boyfriend and the two Bird sisters in the Act of Congress. and her just being shocked at it and just dismayed, and that was sort of just the end. But the alternative Halloween thing was, showing that, but then showing all their heads on a spike.
Yeah.
After
You know
Jane
what?
had been
That is
enraged.
one type of smack bait I really like in comedies, where you see the character sees something that really shocks them, and it's instant rage, and you see them just suddenly acting out in ways that are not congruent with the genre, like they go and they smash someone, they murder them, they whatever, and then it just does a hard cut to them just being that same expression. They haven't moved. It's just what went on in their heads, and then they completely hide that, and they say, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I love that too. Yeah.
I love that. That is the one smack bait I love. So yeah.
Yeah, well, the funny thing was, so much of the audience didn't get that was just a Halloween special, and they're going, "What happened? How did, how's she going to explain this, that she murdered these people?" So there was a few people that didn't really get that wasn't part of the story.
I'll take the blame for that because I write so slowly, so pages come out so slowly. It's like, oh, is that like the end of the story? Like, no, it was a Halloween special, but it's just been there. It's been only the last page there for like 3 months.
I took it as a smack bait for the comedy stuff, like that's what she was thinking, and she never does it, but it totally crossed her mind. That's how I took it originally.
Right.
So
I think that's a fair interpretation of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of obvious that it wasn't really part of the story, but
well, you never know, especially in a webcomic. You never know where it's going to go, right?
Yeah, that's true. Webcomics can go crazy.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of them. Fill your comic with schmuck bait. That's the lesson.
And then randomly just turn one into not smack bait, and then sit back and enjoy.
Yeah. Probably better to go for a 60-40 ratio. I don't know.
Bottom line is, if you know what you are doing, you can basically do whatever the hell you want. The problem is when you just use any kind of trope, just throwing it in, like throwing buckets of paint and hoping something comes out that is presentable. So it really comes down to that.
People do that. I mean, there is like a counter to you can do anything, you can break any rules, because the counter to that is you're trying to engage readers and you're trying to get a bit of traction. And to get traction, it's a bit of a tricky balance between fulfilling expectations, but not making people bored and not making it too cliche and being too expected.
Yeah,
you just got to not piss off your audience.
Yeah,
if you want a thing to be a success.
You know what? I think I would say that there is no rule you can't break, but you can never break all of them at once, first of all. And also you have to know what to break and when for it to work. So you always follow certain, let's say, frameworks of how a narrative should work. It's just that you know how to pick and choose where to have this whoopsie, this is not what we're doing moment. So
if you understand the best you can sort of what rules you're breaking, quote unquote rules you're breaking, it can help. Maybe you want to roll the dice sometimes if you kind of doing it as consciously as you can. And like Oz said, like you're trying to be, you want to be surprising and keep people invested and interested and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, it's an adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tricky balance. That's all I can say.
But it's fun.
Very.
I'll say that.
Very, very.
It's a balance between audience, retaining the audience, but also making something that you really enjoy.
And not kind of disrespecting their investment, their emotional investment. If you're lucky enough to have people invested in your characters and stuff, that doesn't mean not to be surprising, obviously, or that doesn't mean you can't change things, but you have to, just have some regard for that.
That's why at the end of Without Moonlight, Fotis is going to wake up in his bunk bed in 2022 Athens and say, "Oh my God, what a dream!"
Yeah. And then Martha and Basil will walk in and say, "Hey, buddy, you all right? Quite a nightmare."
Oh, I just thought of my favorite schmuck bait. Princess Bride. When Wesley dies. Oh, there's a couple. When Buttercup marries Prince Humperdinck.
That's right.
And it turns out to be all a dream.
That's right.
That is pure schmuck bait. Yeah, both those things. But the biggest one is when Buttercup marries Humperdinck, I think. Because that's when the story stops and bloody Fred Savage goes, "Oh no, can't do that. What do you mean?"
Yeah, he's speaking for us in the audience.
Yeah, but it's done so well that you don't mind.
Yeah, it's done well. Yeah. But yeah, that is the biggest moment. And I wonder how they do that in the book, because it's all based on a book that.
The book is grimmer, and it doesn't have certain smart baits. So.
Oh well, bug the book.
I read it once. William Goldman wrote the book, I think. I read it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, highly recommended. And I'm just saying that it's a bit more cynical.
Yes.
Not too more cynical, just a little bit more cynical. So.
Well, the movie version is simply amazing, and I love it.
Yeah.
One of the great.
Those are the shrieking eels or singing eels.
I think it's shrieking, yeah.
Yeah.
Shrieking eels.
Yeah, that highness. As a kid, I had a few movies that I would watch again and again until the tape wore off, literally. Yeah. And that was one of them. And
Rodents of unusual size.
Yeah. And the As You Wish scene, of course.
Yeah.
As you
wish. And then she just jumps off the slope herself. And I always laugh and I laugh and cringe even now. And cringe in pain. Like that has to be painful because it looks painful as hell. So.
Inconceivable. Oh,
that word you use all the time.
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. And the other one was Willow, that I also watched all the time. And
Willow didn't have any schmuck bait that I can think of.
No schmuck bait. And then the other one was the one with Michelle Pfeiffer when she was super young, Shadow something.
Oh, with Rutger
Lady Hawk.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, that was right in the territory. There's certain kinds of movies. This one's not as much of a crowd pleaser, I think, but The Adventures of Baron Munchausen was kind of like
my favorite.
Yeah. Love that as well. Yeah, fully. I mean, absolutely.
That had schmuck bait.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it was okay. And the other one that I really liked was Return to Oz, like Wizard of Oz 2. that supposedly was too scary for kids. I loved it. All of it.
All these fantastic 80s fantasy. Well,
Yeah.
the Quackcast is going to end very soon.
Let's
Actually,
talk about that next time. 80s fantasy.
Yes, the
Yeah.
golden era with practical effects before all the digital stuff.
Yes, let's do that. I want to go down that memory lane.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
And your homework will be to watch it.
Next time, same bad channel. We're totally not going to.
Yeah, and then we
we
don't
can
even do it.
make any promises we want and betray them.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. This has been Quackcast number 622. I've been Ozone Ocean, and Tance has been Baines, and Baines has been Tance.
Yay!
Inconceivable.